Shalom Aleichem. We have a learning today, nice learning from, this is the Breslover Rabbi Nachman's Torah on Parshas Matos. Let's take a look at what we can learn today. Here we are, Parshas Matos. Vayedaber Moshe el Roshei Hamatos Livnei Yisrael Lemor Zeh Hadovor Asher Tziva Hashem. Moses spoke to the heads of the Israelite tribes, saying, "This is the word that God has commanded." So he's saying, Lemor Zeh Hadovor Asher Tziva Hashem. This is the word that God has commanded. This is the word that God has commanded. Moses prophesied, so said God. All the other prophets prophesied, so said God. But Moses is greater than they, for he meant this specifically is what God said. Rashi. Rabbi Nachman teaches that the word Navi, this is in Hebrew, Navi, Nun Beis Yud Aleph, prophet, connotes reward, as it is an acronym for Yavo Varina Nosei Alumotav. So in other words, if you look at the first letters of every word, you see this saying. Yavo Varina Nosei Alumotav. Yavo Varina Nosei Alumotav. He will come with joy, bearing his sheaves. He will come with joy, bearing his sheaves. Psalms 126:6, which alludes to a reward. One can serve God in two ways. He can serve him for his sake only, rejoicing in the performance of a mitzvah without any thought of reward. Or he can serve God knowing that he will receive a reward for his mitzvot. These two levels represent the prophets of Israel. Moses was so close to God that all he ever thought about was serving God for his sake, for Hashem's sake. Therefore, he merited to know exactly what God commanded, perceiving God in a clear vision. The other prophets, great as they were, did not attain Moses' level. Thus, they could perceive God only in a filtered way. Likutei Maharan 1:5-2. So Moses only thought about serving Hashem for his own sake. Therefore, he merited to know exactly what God commanded, perceiving God in a clear vision, because he was so close to Hashem. The other prophets, great as they were, did not attain Moses' level. Thus, they could perceive God only in a filtered way. That's what the Maharan, Rav Nachman, says. 1:5-2. Serving God with joy brings a person to a level where he is close to him. But it requires great joy when performing the mitzvah itself to attain a clear perception of godliness. One needs great joy while performing the mitzvah, to be very happy to do the mitzvahs of Hashem, to attain a clear perception of godliness. This is why we find that a prophet cannot innovate a new mitzvah. Shabbat 104a. For the level of Moses represents absolute clarity of Torah, while the other prophets did not attain that clarity. Still, we require the other prophets, despite the fact that they cannot give us new Torah laws, because their perceptions strengthen our faith in the Torah that we received through Moses, through Moses when in his communication with Hashem. Likutei halachot. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu had such a clear perception of the Torah of Hashem that he knew exactly what the mitzvos were. The other prophets, the other Nevi'im, did not quite attain that clear perception of godliness, that quality. So so they were able to say that Hashem said to them such and such. Still, we require the other prophets. We need the other prophets, despite the fact that they cannot give us new Torah laws, because their perceptions strengthen our faith in the Torah that we received through Moses. Likutei Halachot. That's 8, page 84a. Let's see one more. So this is the Rabbi Nachman's Torah. That's Breslov Insights into the weekly Torah reading. That's Numbers, Deuteronomy, Bamidbar, and Devarim. So let's see one more. This is the word that God has commanded. Moses prophesied, so said God. All the other prophets prophesied, so said God. But Moses is greater than they, for he meant this specifically is what God said. Rashi. So there's a difference. There's Rabbi Nachman Goldstein, the Cherina Rav, 1825 to 1894, asks, why did Rashi wait until this point in the Torah to explain the difference between Moses and the other prophets? We find that Moses said earlier in the Torah, this is what God said. This is what God said. So we find that earlier in the Torah also. See Exodus, that's Shemos 35:4, and Leviticus 8:5, Ibid 17:2. So it says this is what God said earlier in the Torah. The answer is that God gives us the Torah and mitzvot in order to reward us. As such, we cannot know if the person who performs a mitzvah is doing it for the future reward, as in, so said God, where he's saying that this is what Hashem said, so said God, or for the sake of God himself. When he says this is the word that God has commanded, for the sake of God himself. But when a person takes a vow to serve God in a certain manner, we see that he is going beyond the standard to serve God. This puts him in the category of, this is what God said. The level of Moses. The level of Moses. So in other words, when a person takes a vow to serve Hashem, to God in a certain manner, we see that he is going beyond the standard to serve God. This puts him in the category of, this is what God said, the level of Moses, of Moshe Rabbeinu. Zmirat Haaretz 1:5. That's from Zmirat Haaretz. These are different Svarim that Rav Nachman Mibraslov, that he was Mechaber, that he wrote. Rabbi Nachman's Torah. This is Breslov Insights into the weekly Torah reading, Bamidbar Devarim. This is by Breslov. Rabbi Nachman's Torah. Thank you very much. Kol Tov, Hatzlacha, Rabbi, in what in what is needed, what you need. Kol Tov.